you again. Yeah, I forgot to press the record button. Thanks for whoever that did that. Yeah, welcome to part 2. So today we will have Kian again. So if you were here last week, I'm sure you already know how great he is. So today our event is gonna run from 2 to 4:30. Okay, struggling with the slides. All right, yep, so Women Who Code. So a little bit about our organization, especially for those who are new here. We are a nonprofit founded in San Francisco, and today the event is led by the KL chapter. So the people you see here, in fact, I'll go through the team behind our event today. So yeah, we have events regularly in data track, cybersecurity, and also product. If I miss anything, please feel free to chime in, Brianna and team. So do keep an eye out on our events that we have planned for you for the rest of the year. So Women Who Code, our objective of the organization is to encourage women to pursue tech careers and to upskill ourselves in tech. But our events are, I would say, always open to everyone. So yeah, if you know anyone who's interested, just forward our event info to them and just bring your friends along. Yep, our mission, inspiring women to excel in technology careers. But as you can see here, we always welcome anyone to join. Okay, the workshop organizing team. As you can see on this slide, it's me on the right. My name is Trix. I'll be your host today. And then we also have Mavis and Brianna. Brianna is our director from Women Who Code KL chapter. Would you want to say a quick hi?
Hi, sorry. Hi, everyone. Brianna here. Nice meeting you all. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks, Trix.
Thanks, Brianna. Okay, and of course, we also have our amazing facilitators today. Again, they were the same people who were guiding you in the breakout rooms last week. And today we are super glad to have them with us again. We have Mei, Jethro, Jin, Weixin, Maisie, and Xinxian. And yeah, they will be the people who will be guiding you through the hands-on exercises again today. So a quick run through of our agenda. What's the time now? So yep, good on time. Now we are introducing the event, and we will start with a review of our contents from part 1 led by Kian. And then we will do exploratory data analysis, data cleaning. We will take a short break and then continue with data analysis, data visualization, and hopefully we will be able to wrap up around 4:20. And just a quick run through of the house rules. So if there is a speaker who is speaking, appreciate it if you can mute your mic, but if you have any question, feel free to raise your hand and we'll unmute you. And when you're in the breakout room session, please feel free to speak out, ask questions, or just like get connected with people in the same room. And if you have any question at any point in time, please feel free to put them in the chat and our facilitators will get to you right away. Or if I miss your question, please feel free to just shout out and I will get Kian to answer. And yeah, I think last week we received a good amount of feedback from you guys. So thank you for taking the time to submit your feedback. And after today's session, we will share the link to the feedback form again for us to improve in our future events. And yeah, do stay until the end for a group photo. All right. So for those of you who were here last week, you already know who Kian is. For those who are new here, Kian will be our instructor for part 2 of the workshop today. He is a certified deep learning engineer with experience in coding using Python. And yeah, he will be leading the all of our coding sessions today. Oops. Okay. So yep, without further ado, I will pass the floor to Kian.
Okay, thanks, Trix. Hi everyone, I'm Kenya. As per introduced by Trix, this is you can see my descriptions on there. Basically, in my daily work basis, I work using Python and also Pandas. So today, I think without further ado, we can just start with the contents that we have today. So I will just share let me share my screen. Okay, for those of you who weren't with us last week, okay, basically what we did is we did a few things. First, we talked about a very brief introduction to Pandas, right? So as per the title of the workshop, this workshop is giving a introduction on how to actually use Pandas. So Panda is actually a library built for data analysis and manipulation tool, right? And it is built on the Python programming language. Meaning, if you want to use Pandas, you need to have a prerequisite understanding of the Python programming language first. All right, if you know Python, then using Pandas wouldn't be a very, very huge hassle for you, right? And then we also talk about where is Pandas actually used, right? So if you are dealing with data on a day-to-day basis, so that you might know of this data science life cycle. So this is a general cycle that will occur in every data-related projects. And Pandas is usually used for the data preparation and also the exploratory data analysis side, right? So you actually use Pandas to perform manipulation on the data, perform pre-processing, and let's say you want to generate some insights, right? Or even you want to do some visualizations, you want to make some graphs out of it, you also can use Pandas to achieve that purpose, right? So, and then we also talk about when is it suitable to be used. So the general rule of thumb is if your data set is large but not big, right, is when the data set can be fit into your one machine's memory, then it is suitable to be used, right? So it is processing wise, it is rather fast compared to other software like Excel, right? So some of you might have familiarity using Excel, and you might face this problem whereby if your machine is not good enough, then there will be a lot of lagging time, and then sometimes it might crash also. But for Pandas, because it is like you are talking direct to the terminal, right? There are a lot lesser overhead in terms of computing resources. So Pandas would be a good choice, right? And who should use Pandas? So obviously, if you are a data analyst or engineer or scientist, right, you will find Pandas a great addition to your tools. Because like let's say you want to do some automation, right, using Python, you want to do some automation, then it would be very naturally to use some library in Python to actually do some, let's say you want to massage your data, you want to, using a script, you want to do a cron job to actually schedule data cleaning, right? And then from there on, maybe you want to send it to your boss, right? So Pandas can help in this entire scripting purpose. So you might want to consider using Pandas if let's say you want to do something similar. And how you actually can get started using Pandas. So it is very simple. Let's say you already have Python configured, you just need to install that package into your environment, and then you can start using it already, right? And that's about what we have covered in the slides. And also we went on to talk about the main data structure of Pandas, right? So there are just two. One is okay, in chapter 1. So I think if let's say you are new, you didn't join us last week, you can actually go to this GitHub. Right. Let me send the chat. Okay. So you can come to here, and the notebooks that we use for this talk is already readily accessible. You can, let's say you want to go to this first notebook, right, intro, and then you see a description here. Let's say you want to play around with it, you can just click and it will bring you to Google Collab. So Google Collab is an environment that provided by Google to actually do some computing stuff lah. So in there you actually get your own environment to you can play around with some stuff. So like just now I click this link, right, it will bring me to my own personal environment. So now I can start using Python. Actually, not just Python, there are also some other languages you can use, but in this workshop, we are going to use Python, right? So the two data structures is we introduce in Pandas. If let's say you are using Pandas, you would be doing it a lot, right? Almost every operations in Pandas revolves around these two data structures, series and also data frame. So series is nothing but just like, okay, let's say you have your CSV file is usually in a table format. So that CSV file, when we try to port it into this environment, right, it will be ported it in a data frame, right? So the data frame, data type, I think it's here, right? Is you can think of it as a table, and series is the one particular column in that data frame. So the relationship between data frame and series is the column and data frame is the table, right? And then we'll see a lot of how to create a series, how to create a data frame. But I guess the more important thing is because usually we don't create data frame or series by ourselves. Usually we just convert an existing data file in different format into the data frame so that we can do some Pandas operations on it, right? So if let's say today you have a CSV file, you want to import it into this environment, you can use pandas.read CSV, right? pd.read CSV. And yeah, basically you are set and you can manipulate it as per what you intend to do when it is in the data frame format. So this is a data frame, right, in this Pandas. And then we also talk about how you can actually export data. So at the end of the day, the goal of you doing data cleaning, you're doing pre-processing, right, is to get the output. So let's say you want to save it, you want to get the output, you just do the export. So the method is to CSV, or rather, if let's say you want to output it in another file format, you can just find the corresponding method. It's usually to something. So the suffix is maybe JSON or Excel or something, right? So that is how you can export. And then we also talk about how we can actually manipulate data, right? And then we also have given an exercise for you to actually try to do at home, right? So like subset the following columns and assign them to another variable and this kind. So we hope if let's say you were with us, right, you are able to go through with the exercise. And I guess at the end of today's sessions, if we have extra time, we will come back and actually try to discuss on the solutions to all these questions. But it's pretty simple, right? So, okay, that's a recap on last week's what we have gone through. And let's just start with today's topic, right? Today we are going to cover 4 notebooks, the notebook 4 until notebook 7. So notebook 4, we'll talk about how we can perform a very general exploratory data analysis, right, EDA. So you get to get a feel of how the data set actually looks like. And the 5th notebook will be, we're going to do some data cleaning, very simple data cleaning using Pandas method. So things like, let's say you want to remove some columns or you want to remove some rows, right? How can you do so? And also like, let's say you want to identify which column has missing data and you want to do missing data imputation, right? How can you actually do it? And the 6th notebook is we're going to cover about slightly, let's say you want to answer questions in your pertaining to your analysis, right? Let's say you want to ask how many Chinese in Malaysia out of the entire population, right? This kind of data usually it involves us grouping our data on hand, grouping it into the groups accordingly, and then we try to get maybe a mean, maybe a median, right? So usually those kind of analysis that we are trying to do. So Pandas usually actually offer a very easily usable function called group by, and we'll introduce you to that. And finally, we're going to talk about how we can visualize data in using this Pandas, right? So without further ado, let us just move to the fourth notebook, right? Which is exploratory data analysis EDA. Okay, so first thing, if you are if you don't know about this yet, you need to import the package, the library, right? So okay, so if you are new to Google Colab also, I think you can run the cell by placing your cursor on the cell. Okay, this is what we call a code cell, and this above here is a markdown cell. So usually markdown cell is people use for let's say you want to jot down some notes, right? That's markdown cell. But if you want to execute a code, you put your code in the code cell, and then you use Shift Enter, and it will execute, right? Or alternatively, you can click this Run button on the left, right? First, you need to import it. And for this workshop, we are going to use extensively on the dataset, Pokemon dataset, right? So this is, okay, maybe this is how you can actually import the Pokemon dataset. So the dataset is actually in this, I've provided it in this URL. So if you want to check on the raw dataset, you can go to that link. Right, so it's a dataset with Pokemon, and you can see Pokemon names, Pokemon types, right? And then Pokemon, I guess this is their attributes, right? How many HP they have, how many attack they have, and so on. So this is a dataset, right? So in order to turn this CSV file into, you want to import it into an environment before you start working on it, right? You need to use this method to CSV, right? So let's say we run it. Okay, this is how we import it, right? Okay, then if you try to call the head method, right, it will show you by default, it will show you the first 5 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of your data set, right? So let's say you think you want to see like 20 rows. Okay, you just put the argument, pass in 20. So let's just try to execute it. Okay, right. So now we have a 20 rows. Now we have 20 rows. Then one question that might come into our head is that, oh, now you see 20 rows, but it doesn't actually, in a way, tell you anything about the data set. Like you don't know how many columns there actually are, right? So let's say you didn't check this CSV file yet, and it's quite long. You need to scroll all the way to the end, only you know, right? So you want to know, get a general sense of the data, right? You might ask things like, what is the total rows, right? What are the total columns? And then what are each columns about? So are they about a categorical data type, or are they about numeric data type, right? So EDA is all about getting a general sense, getting a feel of the entire structure of the data. So you wouldn't be, let's say, you want to pass in 100, right? You want to read the 100 rows. Even if you do that, you still don't get the general sense of the data, right? Because it's not, how to say, it doesn't give a summation, a representation in one number, right? So in order to do that, you can use the method called, one of it is info. So, okay, at first we remember when you import the CSV file, you import it into a data frame object, right? And then you assign a variable to it, which is the data frame. So by calling info method on that data frame, you actually, as per the name describes, you actually are asked, it will return the info about the data frame, right? So let us try to check. So you'll immediately see a lot of info actually get out from there. So things like, you now know that there are a total of 13 columns, right, in that data set. And then you also notice that, oh, this is what do you call it? This column name, right? So this is a hash. Very possibly it is a index, which we can drop it, right? We might be able to drop it if it doesn't have any significance. We also can see a data type, right? So like we know that total, HP, attack, and all these are numeric data type, right? And therefore this legendary column, we know it is a bool data type. So Boolean data type is true or false. Okay, it is true or false. So meaning if it is true, that Pokemon is a legendary Pokemon. And also, let's say we have object, right? Object in here actually means that the it is a string data type, right? And then non-null count means that it doesn't have. Non-null means it is not missing. So 800 of that data is not missing. And then we see that the total is, we have 800 entries now. So most of the columns doesn't have missing data except for type 2, right? So that's a very high overview of the info. And then we also can check about the shape, right? So basically the shape tells us how many rows does that data frame have. So remember, data frame is a table. So a table, you have row, then you have columns. So 13 is how many columns we have, right? And then we can also check on the size. So size is how many entries, how many values we have. So it is 800 times 13, right? It's the size. So let's check 800 times 13, right? Which is the same. So that is size, right? Number of elements. And then number of dimension, usually in data frame, it is 2 because we have one dimension is the row, another dimension is the column, right? And then you can also check for data types, right? For each of that columns, what are actually that data type. So a data type actually helps when you want to do some manipulation, because when it is categorical data or when it is numeric data, we do different operations on them, right? If let's say you want to find out the specific data type of that particular column, let's say HP, right? You just call, okay, how you can access a particular column, you can either use dot notation or you can use indexing, right? So when you try to do this, this will bring out, this will return a series, the HP series or the column. And then on that columns, you just call that data type for that particular column. So this would return integer, right? Because it is numeric value and so on, right? You can also convert a data type. Like let's say you convert the HP from integer to float, right? And this we have introduced. You want to check the first few rows, you use head. If let's say you want to check the last rows, you use tail, right? So this will return the last few rows. And then let's say you want to check on the index, right? So these are the index. So index gives us a way of referencing that particular value in that data frame. And then also you can take a look at the columns, right? With what are the columns actually in that data frame. And let's say you want to check whether there are any duplicated values, duplicated rows, right? You can use that duplicated method, and then it will return a Boolean value. So this actually it doesn't tell a lot of things. You can actually call a sum. So what this is doing is that, let's say if it is duplicated, it will return true, right? 2 rows are exactly the same. Then you return true for that 2 rows. And when you have true, it actually is represented with 1. So if let's say there are 2 rows that are duplicated, this will return 2. Right? Hope that makes sense. And then n unique is about how many number of unique entries are there. So you can see that name, there are 800, meaning every value of that name column is unique, right? Makes sense, right? So how many unique values are there, right? So if let's say you want to return the particular unique value for the name column, you can use this command. Yep. And you can also do value counts. So value counts give us like, okay, I want to count how many values are there for each type, each category for type 1, right? So you calling the value counts method, you return as a count of that category. So because type 1 has a lot of type, all these are types, right? You will return the count of that. And also, let's say you want to check for now, okay, whether there are any now values, right? So if you just call the is now method, it doesn't give a lot of information. So let's say you call the sum, it will tell us that, hey, type 2 has 386 now values. And then also you can do some other stuff, like when you do a describe, right, it will return summary statistics. So things like count, mean, standard deviation, mean. And of course, it will apply only on numeric column, because it doesn't make sense for category column to actually have a mean or a standard deviation, right? So it gives this. And also, let's say you want to get a correlation matrix. How are they correlated? You can use core, right? So it will give a correlation matrix. And then let's say you want to, okay, you want to get largest value of something. And then you pass in this parameter is, let's say you want to get 10 largest value for that data, for that column attack. So this is giving us 10 Pokemon with the highest attack, right? And largest. So you see that all this, the attack is largest, right? 10 of them. And then also you can also use things, right? Mean, median, and max out, right? So you just return whatever that they mean, return the average, return the median, and also return the max value of that. This we are calling on a series, so it will return on that series, right? So that is a very brief introduction on how you can perform EDA using Pandas. So now we are going to have a practice section. So try to use all the methods that we have introduced, and to get all of this, like get the details, get the index, get what are the list of columns, right? And we will entering into a breakout room to actually do this, right? I will pass the time back to Trix to pass you into breakout room. Yeah.
Yep. So how long do we need, Kian?
I think we can do in 15 minutes.
Okay, sounds good. So just sit tight, give me a minute.
Right, so when you are in your breakout room, we will have a facilitator with you. So if let's say you have any questions pertaining to using Pandas, you can always unmute yourself and ask them.
Yep, that's exactly right. So I will open the rooms now. You should be able to go to your breakout rooms in 3, 2, 1.
Done pretty easily, because the practice actually you can. So the practice that you can just refer to whatever methods that we have introduced above. So for example, you want to get the details of data frame, right? You just use the infor method, right? For index, you just call the index method on that data frame. And list of columns, you can retrieve it using the columns method. Descriptive statistics, you can use the describe method for the count for all the categorical columns, right? Okay, I think this maybe I can show, right? Right. Okay, so I actually have the solutions with me, right? So if let's say you want to, okay, let's just get this part out. Zoom. Okay, so let's say you want to get all the categorical columns. You want to do a count on it, like you want to know for each category in that categorical column, what are the values for each category, right? So first thing you need to know what are the categorical columns in your data frame, right? So how you can actually get that, you can use this select the types method, right? Basically, it select a particular data types. You select all the columns of that data types that we want, right? And then we need to put in the arguments. Here I put include object, which is usually when you have a column with string, if you data frame, Pandas will parse it into an object data frame, right? So this is the categorical data type. And then after selecting, this will get you all the columns, right? This will get you all the columns, and then but we need this will get you all the data frame, right? But we need the columns. So we just call the columns and then we turn that into a list. So the end result of that operation is you get a categorical columns with all the lists, with all the categorical column names. So if let's say, let me try to run all. Okay, if I want to run all, okay, right, just to show you. Okay, so these category columns actually will give us all the categorical columns, which is name, type 1, and also type 2, right? So now you have that categorical columns, you just have to do a for loop, basically, to do a count of that, to do a value count on all of that columns. So yep, if you know Python, this is how you do a for loop, right? It's nothing hard. So often Pandas has already provided with a subset of tools for you to actually get things done very easily, but sometimes you still need to improvise on it to actually write some for loop or write some scripts to get what you want, right? And then correlation matrix, so it is just calling the core method. And also top 5 Pokemon with highest speed. It is just using the n largest, right, that we introduced, I think above, right, n largest. And then remember the first parameter is, oh yeah, by the way, you can get access to the doc string by clicking, I think, Control-Shift-Space. Yep. So you can get access to the doc string in this Google Collab using the key combination of Control, Shift, and also space. Basically, it tells you, a doc string tells you what are the parameters that are expected. So for example, n is how many rows we want to return. Columns is the column name that we want to get, right? That we want to basically compare on. And then this keep is, I also not sure what does this keep mean, but you can read further more on the doc string itself, right? So yep, so that is for this notebook. Anyone has any questions? But I believe all your questions already, you can very safely direct your questions to the facilitators, and they will be more than happy, and also they'll be able to help you out on any questions that you have. So right, let's see. Okay, I don't think anyone, if no one has questions, let's just move on. In the interest of time, let's just move on to the 5th notebook, which is very simple general introduction on how we can do data cleaning using Pandas, right? So let us start with, okay, first thing, you need to import your package first, right? So for this notebook, we're going to use Pandas and also NumPy. So this tutorial, this workshop is actually a workshop on introduction to Pandas, right? And some might be curious on what is this package called NumPy. So NumPy is the NumPy is the very core and fundamental library in Python, whereby people use it to perform a lot of mathematical computation and processing. Basically, NumPy provides an abstraction to basically you know Python. You are into programming, you know that Python is a rather slow language, right? Because it is an interpreter language, and NumPy actually is a wrapper to help people coding using Pandas to actually leverage on C++. So basically, it provides a data structure like what do you call it? It provides NumPy data structure to allow faster computing. Yeah. So a lot of libraries in Python that deals with scientific computation, like what we are using now, Pandas, and also some other libraries like Matplotlib, like TensorFlow. Most of them they built on top of NumPy, right? So you can think of Pandas as a, if let's say it has a house, NumPy is the base, and Pandas is a structure and roof that is built on top of NumPy, right? So that is super brief introduction on what is NumPy, and we are still going to use this Pokemon data set, right? So you import it and you assign a data frame variable to it, right? And then, okay, first, just now you learned how you can actually check the missing data values, right? So how can you actually check that? What method can you call, right? Anyone want to guess? What method can you call on that data frame, right? So actually is one very simple method is, yeah, it's now. Thank you. Okay, and we're going to add a sum, right? Because we want to get the basically it gives us the missing data for each column, right? When you execute it, you will see that, okay, we just, this is a very clean data set because only type 2 has missing data, right? Even then, it is not, it is by design. So this data set is totally clean, right? So because we need to introduce to different methods, we can actually perform data cleaning, right? So let's just inject some arbitrary fake missing values into it. So what we are doing now is also maybe a good exposure to you, right? So let's say today you want to turn, right, every values in this generation column. You want to convert every value into some other values, right? You can use the map method. So this is, as the name implies, it is mapping from one value to another value. So in this case, this lambda is a Python way of writing a short function without actually assigning it a name, function name. So we are saying that for every value in this generation column, right, for every row, every value, let's map it and change it to this numpy.nan. So this stands for not a number. So when Pandas sees this nan, it will, okay, this is what missing value is represented in Pandas. So instead of none or instead of null, right, in JavaScript, Pandas use none, nan, not just none, but nan, not a number, right? So this is how you can do a mapping. So we actually, in this line, we turn all the values of that generation column into missing values, not a number, right? And then this is another, this is a similar thing, right? But instead, okay, this we are turning all the numbers now. So this is just showing to you that you can turn about half of that column into missing values. How we actually achieve that is by using the Numpy Random module, right? So basically this will return us a random float from 0.0 to 0.1, right? We return a random number. So if let's say the value returned is less than 0.5, right? We will just assign it as missing value, not a number. Else we will keep it remains as X, as that original value. So this is how you can actually inject a certain missing values of. Let's say you want to do you want to change, you want to assign some values, right? You can use the map function. So it is quite handy. So let's say after we do that, right? After we do that, so remember the missing value set now is very clean, right? And let's see the result is that, okay, now for generation, so we have 800 rows. We see that, yeah, all of them are missing now, right? And for attack, we said we want to convert half of them into missing values, right? So it's about half of, right? So this is what we get. Now we already get our missing values. So now in actual world, data is super messy, because like when there are a lot of factors why data are messy, because sometimes human data are keyed by human, right? Sometimes, so when human key in, there could be a typo, there could be misspellings, right? Or they just forgot to enter the rows, or when data is transitioning from maybe one person to another person, one machine to another machine, then there might be some loss also, right? So a lot of factors why missing data happen. And let's say you found this, right, missing data value, right? So you just want to do imputation, right? There are actually like a lot of ways you can actually do missing value imputation, but we're just going to introduce some very basic and generic way. So for example, we can fill all of the missing values with certain values. So we use the fill NA method. So what it is doing is that it will go into this data frame, right? Now has a lot of missing values. For each of these missing values, not a number, it will replace it with the parameters that we pass in. So for this is we'll pass in 999, right? So let's try to do it. Yeah, so let's say we check again. So we see that, oh, no more missing values, because some of them already filled with the values 999. So you can also fill it with whatever you want. But okay, you can also not just numeric values. You can, let's say you want to impute using a string, right? So let's say I want to if it but right? So yeah, you can also do that, right? And then when we check, okay, it's also null. So just to confirm, right? df impute string dot what do you call it, generation, right? Okay, so now all of the values has become routine channel already, right? Of course, you can do it not for the entire data frame. You can do it also column by column. So in order to do that, I think you can call, like for example, generation, right? You can also call the fill NA method. Yeah, you can also call that method on a series, right? And yeah. And for example, let's say let's say here you want to fill up for the attack column, right? You want to fill up the missing values of it using the mean. So how you can actually achieve that? So you call the fill NA method on that attack series, right? And then the values you get from. So basically, last chapter you learn about mean. You just call that method. So this will generate the mean for that attack column. And using this value, it will fill that missing values in that attack column. So this is how one way you can do it dynamically instead of you hard coding one specific value, right? So yep. And also another method, instead of filling a particular value, right, you can fill forward, right? This method stands for forward fill, right? Basically, what it does is it uses the value from the previous row and it fills it up. So for example, right, if let's say you have 1 and then you have this and then a number and then you have 2, right, it will become 1, 1, and 2. So this is forward fill, right? So when we are using this method forward fill, it is actually doing this. And it also has a backward fill, B fill. What it's doing is that, okay, now it's 1, not a number, and 2. So what backward fill achieve is it will do 1, 2, and 2. Because, okay, let's say this value is missing, right? So what Pandas is doing is it will look at the next value. If let's say it is also missing, so it will keep on looking forward until it sees a value, and when it sees this, it will just replace it. So this will become 1, 2, 2, 2, right? So this is backward fill. Usually people use this for when you have a time series data or other type of data, right? Because let's say you have a table when each row is different entities, right? Maybe each row different customers, then it doesn't really make sense to do that, right? And this is how you can do a simple imputation for missing values. Also, you can, let's say you don't want a particular column, you can drop it. So let's say I don't want the speed, right, column. And bear in mind that you need to specify the axis, right? If I don't specify the axis, I think it will return an error, right? Because it's not found in the axis. What is happening here is that when you don't specify the axis, the default values is actually axis is 0. So this is my bad. This is saying that, okay, this x speed, I'm telling that Pandas that, hey, Pandas, you go to my data frame, right? You look for this speed index, okay, index, and drop it. But when you actually check the index, right, data frame dot index, right, there are no speed label, right? Because this speed is in the columns index, is in the columns, right, which is in the axis 1. So you need to specify axis 1 if you want to draw a particular column, right? So let's check out. So speed is no longer here, right? So remember to, I think this will be a issue that you will face. Let's say you're dealing a lot with Pandas, right? You need to really make sure you are applying that operation on the right axis. So just a little tips for you: when the one axis equals to 1, usually it means that the operation is happening on the column level, right? Column by column. When it's equals to 0, it means that we are doing the operation on row by row, right? So yep, this is how you can drop. And you can also drop multiple columns at once. So what you do is you just, instead of one column name, you provide a list of columns, right? And then basically you're dropping this entire thing, right? But you cannot do it. Let's say you say, let's say I remove the square parentheses, right? Can I do it? You will return an error. Why? Because it expects us to provide an iterable data structure. So iterable means that it needs to be in a kind of data structure whereby we can call the iter method on it. All right. So if you don't get it, just put a square parenthesis to turn this into a list of column names, right? And then it works fine, right? So this is how you can drop columns. Let's say you want to drop a row, right? So now we see that the axis is, we use, instead of 1, we use 0. And then this is the row index, right? Basically, we want to drop the first row, because we count in Python, we count from 0 instead of 1, right? So you see the first, I think it's bubble, so it's not there anymore. So let's say you want to drop, brand new saw, right? 2, right? So now 2 is not there. So this is how you can drop a row, right? And you can also drop all rows with missing values, right? So when I try to execute this, none of the rows is left, because remember at the start we turn all the legendary values into null. So this will just drop all the rows with not a number or missing values. It will remove it from the data. Right. So this is super general introduction on how you can perform data cleaning using Pandas. Right. So the following is practice session. Try to do all this. Right. Yeah, you can do it in the breakout room. Right. I think now it's 3:10. Yeah. I think we can have 10 minutes for that.
Okay, 10 minutes it is. So see you in the breakout rooms. Hi everyone, welcome back. So yeah, now let's all take a quick 5-minute break. So I will see you all back here at 3:26.
Hello.
Hi. Yes, is this Sukfan? Or who was speaking? Hello? Anyone has any question? Nope. Okay, so break until 3:26. See you in a bit.
Hope everyone had a good stretch. We will first, let's just do a super quick walkthrough on the solutions, right? So I believe most of them are fairly straightforward, right? So to import a data set, so you already know to import, just use the read CSV method and just bind it to any name, right? So how you can actually inject missing values, right? So based on this condition, so let's say the attack value is more than 50, only we replace it as not a number, right? Missing value situation. You can actually achieve that by just doing a simple map. So basically you call a map method on the attack column. You just check, right? So this function says that if X, or if the attack value is more than 50, let's change it to not a number, right? Else, if this condition is not satisfied, let's just keep it as it is. Else, X, right? So our original, the parameters that we pass in is X, right? So this is how you can achieve this, right? And the rest are, I would say, pretty much straightforward. So how you can inject missing values, inspect missing value. So it's now method, and then you use .sum, right? So using a constant, you can just pass in a constant value, like maybe 3, 5, right? Depending on your use case. Using the mode, right, we have introduced, you can just use the mode method on that series, right? So let's say for a tag column, right, you can just call the mode method, right? And then you just pass it as a parameter into the field NA method, right? So this is how you can actually do that. And for a field, by specifying the method is f field, right? Yeah, I think you can also do it this way. So you can, I think there's a f field or field method. You can also use it this way. So there are actually a lot of different ways you can achieve the same objective in Pandas, right? So sometimes when we have a lot of ways, right, we might think which is the best way, or is there a most optimized way? So I would say you don't need to be too stressed about which is the best way or which is most optimized way, as long as it gets the objective done. Because at the end of the day, we got a task and then we want to fulfill it, right? So if let's say your data set is super large, right, and the processing actually is taking up a significant amount of time, then at that point of time, we will need to think about finding the most optimized ways, right? And so how you can drop all the rows with missing values, so you can just use a drop NA, right? You can even also you can even drop, like, you can choose how you want to drop the missing values, right? For example, I think they provide an example. So this how you can drop any or all, right? Basically you can play around, like let's say you can specify if let's say a particular column, you can check if a particular column got missing values, only we drop that row. Also is possible. It's achievable through this drop NA method. But as I said, this is just an introductory course, right? There are actually way more stuff that you can do using Pandas. You just need to take into it. So a good place to start is Stack Overflow, the forum, right? You can also go to the Pandas official documentation website. They also provide an excellent tutorial on all kinds of stuff, right? So this is regarding this notebook data cleaning. So anyone has any questions? Right, so I take that as a no. Let's move on to our sixth notebook. Right, so this will be, so just now the fifth notebook is we doing some data cleaning, right? Some pre-processing. So this is more about how you can actually answer particular questions that you have in your mind, basically analytical questions. So all right, so these are the libraries that we are going to use. Right, so Matplotlib, here you see something new, which is Matplotlib, right? So Matplotlib is a library in library in Python that are very often used by people to generate visualizations. So let's say you want to do a graph, all right, a line chart or a bar chart or a box plot, right? You can achieve it using the Matplotlib library. So by now, right, let's say you have let's say you just want to perform this analysis, right? You want to know how many Pokemon are there for each type. So if let's say you are already with us from last week's sessions, by now you can already achieve this, right? Answer these very simple questions. How, let's say you have this data set, you import it into a data frame, right? And then you can, let's say you want to know how many Pokemon are there for each type. You can do a value count, right, for the type, right? So what this will return is this will return the count for each type, right? So this already help you to answer these questions. How many Pokemon are there for each type? Okay, but sometimes picture speaks louder than words. Is that no? a picture speaks more than 1,000 words, right? So sometimes we want to turn it into a visualization so that people can, one look at it, already know the message that we want to portray, right? So by using Matplotlib, we can actually generate a bar chart to show us that, hey, take a look at this graph. We already know that the type with the most Pokemon is the water type, right? And if let's say we want to take a look at the figures, it is over here, right? So on the next chapter, we are going to learn about how you can actually generate this kind of visualizations. But for now, we are just going to try to use Pandas to answer some very simple questions. Let's say, for example, we want to know the Pokemon, right? We want to know which Pokemon has the highest attack or the lowest attack, right? One way you can actually achieve it is by using sort values method, right? So you sort the data frame by the attack column, right? And then this ascending is saying that we want to sort it. Okay, when you pass the first argument into the ascending parameter, it means that we want to sort it in a descending manner from largest to lowest, right? So if we try to execute this, you will see that, okay, the attack, okay, look at the attack. So all of this has the highest attack, right? Right. So okay, if let's say, I think you can do this also. Let's say you want to show just the top 10 results, you just call the head method. Right, so now you are showing the top 10. Of course, you can do it also with the n largest. So this is another way of doing this, right? You are showing the top 10 Pokemon with the highest attack. This is in descending order. So if let's say you want to show it from the lowest, you want to check Pokemon with the lowest attack, you just set ascending equals to true, right? You assign true to ascending. So you see that Happiny, Chansey, this Pokemon has the lowest attack, right? You can also even sort values by multiple columns, right? So for example, you want to sort which Pokemon has the highest attack, right? And also followed by the highest defense, right? So now you see the defense is not sorted. It's like very random, right? So you can sort multiple columns in order. So what this will do is this will sort first by attack. So you put the Pokemon with the highest attack first. If let's say there are two Pokemon with the same attack, it will compare using the defense column, right? So if let's say two of them match in terms of attack, and then it will sort accordingly. The Pokemon with the highest defense will go first, followed by the second one, right? But I guess in this case, it wouldn't matter so much because, okay, like this, you can see a difference of like the 4 to 4, the row 4 to 4 onwards, right? So you see that Pokemon with the highest defense is sort first, right? So if let's say you want to do it in another way, okay, so you want to sort attack in ascending order, in descending order, and then you want to sort defense in ascending order, right? So meaning you want to do it in different ways. So you can pass a list of booleans into this ascending, right? So this means that I want to sort attack in descending order, and then defense in ascending order, descending, ascending, right? So this now will return this 20 will come first, right? 20, 100 followed by 60. So let's check. Right, yep. So because these three match, so now we are sorting the defense in ascending order, right? Hope it makes sense. it comes in handy sometimes, right? And then also another thing that is very important for analysis type of question is often we are interested in the group, right? So in if you are familiar with SQL, so you usually will use the group by SQL command. So in Pandas also we have that method, group by. So this will return a data frame group by type 1, right? So what do I mean by that is, right, you will see all the Pokemon with type 1 is grouped together, right? So you see grass, you see flying, right? They are grouped together. And what you can actually do with this, right? So let's say you want to know the, okay, you want to know for the type 1, you want to know the count, right? So okay, this will return, okay, this is not, okay, this is not a very good example. Okay, let's just ignore this, right? So let's say you want to return, okay, you want to group all the Pokemon by type 1, okay, and then you want to know the HP for each type, and then you want to know the mean value of it, right? So it will return something like this. So it will return for each type of the Pokemon, it will generate a mean value for their HP, right? And then if let's say you sort it, it will return, it will tells you, it will answers you the question of what is the mean value, mean HP of Pokemon for each type, right? So let's say you want to switch it, like you know the attack, right? What is the mean attack for each type of the Pokemon? Or rather, what is the type of the Pokemon with the highest attack, right? So we know that Dragon type has the highest average attack, right? So this is how you can use the group by method. What is actually occurring under the hood is that when you call the group by method, it will return a group by object. So, okay, when you call group by, right? Group by type 1, right? So it will return this group by object, and then you can, it's more or less like a data frame, right? So you can tag, you can access whatever column name that are in it. So for example, HP tag, and then you can just call the method on that series, right? So this is how you get the median, how you get the max. So yep, you can, yeah, it is more or less resemble a data frame, this data frame group by object. And the usual methods that you can apply on it can also be applied on this group by object. For example, you want to apply, right? So what it is doing is that it is retrieving only the name for these types, right? So for example, if I execute this, right, it will return the, it will return the group, it will return the names for each type, right, grouped together. So for example, bug, we know that these Pokemon are bug type, and then these are water type, and so on. Yep. You can also, let's say you want to group, you just want to do some operations when they are of, okay, this is a rather, okay, you can apply, you can call the apply method also. So for example, you want to apply the sum function on each type, right? So it will return the sum of the HP for each type, right? So this is grouped by one group. You can also group by multiple groups. So this, for example, you put in, okay, always remember it goes in orders, which means that you will group by the first type first, followed by the second type, right? So if let's say we run this, okay, so it will group by all of the grass Pokemon together, and then all of the type 2 together. So calling this method is not so straightforward, right? So let's try this. Okay, so now you will see that it grouped by all the bug type Pokemon first, right? And then for this bug type, so this data set, right, each Pokemon might have 2 types. So the second type, let's say electric, they will group together again. And then from there on, we generate the summary statistics using the describe method, right? For this defense column. So basically, it's doing a multi-label grouping, right? And then also, yeah, this is what more or less same, right? But this is just getting the mean instead. So if you try to run this will return, yeah, it will return the bug type, okay, and group by the ghost second type, and then it will return the mean, right? If you don't sort the values, I think it will be clearer to you. Okay, yeah, basically it grouped them to the bug type first, and then in the bug type itself, it will group together the second type, right? And then it return the mean for the HP, right? So this is what is happening. And then finally, let's enter into our practice section. So please try to do all this practice, right? Try to answer all these questions using whatever method that we have taught you. Of course, you don't need to limit yourself to what is covered here. All right, maybe there are some methods that you can use in previous notebooks, or if you already know Pandas beforehand, you can try to use your own methods, right? So as said, there are a lot of ways to achieve one thing in programming, in analysis using Pandas, right? So just try to answer all these questions, and yeah, I think we will enter into the breakout room. Like, is there any questions?
Okay, so let's do the breakout room. How long?
I think we can do 10 minutes.
Okay, so 10 minutes. Here we go. Hi everyone, welcome back to the main room. All right, shall we move on?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Trix. So I guess everyone have tried on the questions. So don't worry too much. Let's say you don't manage to get it done in time. You can also practice it. I mean, you can also try to solve it right after this workshop. And we actually have solutions for that. You can also, it's in the GitHub. You have to take yourself, because we don't. It's best if let's say you try it yourself, and then you know what works and what doesn't, right? And then only you refer to the solutions for one of the way on how you can actually answer these questions. All right, so let's just very quickly go through on how you can actually attempt to answer these questions using Pandas, right? So first question is, do the top 5 Pokemon with highest attack also have high defense, right? Do the top 5 Pokemon with highest attack also have highest defense? So of course, let's try to break it down into 2 parts. So first part, let's get all the Pokemon with the highest attack first, right? In order to achieve that, pretty straightforward. You can use the n largest method, and then you just select top 5 Pokemon with the highest attack, right? So this will return you a top 5 attack Pokemon. And then on that, right? So usually, okay, this is also a question you need to ask yourself. How, when we say high, right? How high is high? Like I think yesterday COVID case was maybe around 13,000, right? So is that high? Not sure. So usually when we refer to high or low, it's usually relative. So we need to get some sort of measure for us to actually convince ourselves whether it's high or low. So in this case here, let's use mean. So if let's say the high defense, right? If the Pokemon has the defense is higher than the mean, we will consider it as having high defense, right? So what you see that basically I'm doing a comparison. After I get the top 5 Pokemon with attack, right? I get their defense and then I compare them against the mean defense of all the Pokemon, right? So this is the results that is written. So we see that out of 5 of them, 4 of them has, in our case, is higher than average. We consider it as having a high defense, right? So it is generally is true, except for one case, right? So I think if you let's say you want to know, let's try to execute that. So these are the top 5 Pokemon with highest attack, right? So and then okay. Okay, so this is the defense, right? Defense, right? So these are the defense, right? 100 and something, and then we are comparing this again against the mean, right? To answer this question. So this is the first one, and then the second one. What are the top 3 second generation? So Pokemon has generation. Basically, how you know the generation is through the generation column. What are the top 3 Pokemon from generation 2 with the highest SP attack, right? So obviously for this, try to break it down into part by part and try to solve it part by part. So first thing, we need to get all the Pokemon from second generation. So how I actually did that is by comparing. All right. So this is okay. I'm comparing the condition. If I will only So what this part is doing, that it will return the data frame, or you return all the Pokemon from second generation, right? So because this will only return true if, let's say, this value is 2, the generation is 2, right? So when I get all the second generation Pokemon, the whatever is left is very straightforward. I just need to get the largest. I need to use the n largest method to get the top 3, and then I compare using special attack, right? And this is the answer. I don't know how to pronounce this. Amparo, maybe, right? These are the 3. So we see the SP attack, is quite high, right? And let's move on to the next one. What are the right? What are the Pokemon with highest attack from each generation? So for this, I've done a group by, right? So I group because we want to know from each generation, right? What I've done is I do a group by. I group all the Pokemon by generations, and then I return the max value, the highest attack value, right? And then I return it in okay, let's try to run it line by line. Okay. Max attack from each gen, right? So the end result is that I get the highest attack, the value for each generation, right? So this is the series that is written, right? So from this, what I've done, of course there are other ways of doing it, right? I get basically this is a kind of dictionary in Python, right? So in dictionary we have key, we have values. So these indexes are the keys and these are the values, right? So based on that, what I have done is I just try to locate. So I go to the first, this line, right? So for this generation, okay, so I try to compare. I try to find if the attack is, like, for example, the first generation, if the attack is 190, and the generation of the Pokemon is the first generation, right? I just return the result, okay, from that data frame, and then I get the name, right? If okay, so this is the end result, right? I get the name. So if let's say I don't call the name method, okay, so it will return row by row. So this is Mewtwo with the highest attack from Gen 1, right? Yeah. Right. So yeah, if it still don't make sense to you, right? Try to go through the code and run line by line, and then you'll understand more, right? And let's move on to the next question. Which Pokemon type has the highest average speed? Okay, so for this, I also do a group by, right? Because I want to know, basically, I want to know each type. I group them by each type, right? And then I get a speed, and then I get a mean. So this is pretty straightforward, right? So in order to get the highest, in order to sort them, right, I just use the sort values method. So if we run that, we see that the flying type has the highest average speed. And then, all right, so this is what, how many legendary Pokemon is from the 4th generation. So this is also rather straightforward. We just first do a filter, basically from, okay, this data frame is every Pokemon from every generation. So by using this condition, right, we are getting only the Pokemon or only the data frame with the generation values equals to 4, right? Okay, so if let's say, try to, okay, we just try to execute this, right? You will see that I will return all of the Pokemon from generation 4 only, right? So after you have this, is rather straightforward already, right? You just need to get the legendary and the sum, right? So why you might ask why this work is because remember for legendary we have Boolean data type. So if it is not a legendary Pokemon, the value is false. So when it's false, it's actually 0. It's the same with the is now dot sum method that we use, right? So when it is of true, is a legendary Pokemon, then the Boolean value will be true, which is 1. So when you sum it up, we get the total number of legendary Pokemon from 4th generation, which is 13, right? So this is, yeah, so this is it. And anyone has any questions? But I guess in the interest of time, let's just move on to our final piece of notebook, which is how we can actually do data visualization using Pandas, right? Okay, I think. Okay, let me just clear out the output. Okay, so maybe a little bit of disclaimer when we say that we are using Pandas to do visualizations, it is actually not true in the extent that Pandas, when we are doing visualizations, like Pandas is actually calling the code from or using the code from Matplotlib library to actually performing the visualization under the hood. So if it doesn't make sense, you try to think of it as they work hand in hand together to generate the visualization, right? So in that sense, there are some kind of limitations or bottleneck when we try to just use pure Pandas to actually do the visualizations, right? So you might have to, if let's say you want to do a lot of stuff, some more in-depth stuff, you need to look through and study about this library, Matplotlib. And then, yeah, it will offers you a wider range of tools for you to actually do that, right? So yeah, let's just import both of the libraries. And then this I have shown you just now, right? So basically this is just how we generate a horizontal bar plot, right? But how you can actually plot a chart. So one thing to note, right? So when I first started using this, basically using Collab to do visualization, it's kind of hard for me to actually visualize what is occurring under the hood. But if let's say you still remember in your secondary school, right, where you have these X values and then you have these Y values, and then your teacher, right, or whoever asks you to actually plot it using a pen and paper plot on top of it. So basically what Pandas is doing or Matplotlib is doing, they're actually doing the same thing also. So in order for you to actually plot a plot like this, right, you need to supply the X-axis and also the Y-axis values. So that's why you need to provide a series, right, instead of a data frame. So like if you try to do this, right, okay, so remember this as series or this is a column, the type 1 column. If you if you try to use just a data frame, right, you see that it's taking forever to load, right? So when that happens, it tells you that your code has something wrong. So you just interrupt that, or else you wait for a very long time. Because when you are giving the data frame itself to Pandas, it doesn't actually know what you want him to do with all that data, right? Just remember, you need to provide the x-axis and the y-axis. So machines are like children. You need to explicitly tell them, instruct them in plain language, right? Language that they understand what they need to do. Right? You cannot give them complex things and just ask them to understand it themselves. You cannot do that. But one thing, what that makes machine different from child is that if you ask machine to do something, it usually will oblige, but most of children, they don't usually listen to the adults, right? So there are the difference, but the caveat is that you need to explicitly, your instruction need to be super clear. So instead of supplying a data frame, you need to supply a series, right? So let's see what is a series. Okay, so you try to look at this, right? So this gives us the y. Okay, this x-axis here is the you can name it as the index, and then the y-axis is this value over here. So we need to supply a series in order to plot a chart, in short, right? So this generates the value count. So let's get the value count, right? Value count. Right. So let's see. All right, so this is this x-axis is the type and the y-axis is the value. So basically using that, Pandas will plot a plot. So what kind of plot we need to specify using the kind parameter, right? So for example, we're going to plot a bar plot, vertical bar plot. All right, so this is what is happening. You see the x-axis is the y-axis, right? So remember to supply the right data. And then so let's say, then it's pretty much the same thing, right? I just want to show different type of bar plots, different types of visualization. So for example, you want to plot a horizontal bar plot, right? You need to specify the kind as, you know, pass in bar h argument. And then let's say you want to do a cluster bar chart, right? How you can actually do that? Okay, basically, you need to do the n largest, right? So if you want to know what is happening on the hood, right? You try to plot out, you try to display, right? So this is return the 10 Pokemon with the largest attack. And then this is, so remember we need to have an x label, x-axis and y-axis. So in this case, x-axis is the index here, right? And the y-axis will be the value. And then all this will be the attribute, right? Attack and so on. But you see, if let's say we don't we don't limit it, right? Let's say, yeah, if we don't limit it, then this visualization will be too packed and you will not get anything useful out of it. So that's why you really need to understand the data before you can do a good visualization. So yeah, this is how you do a cluster bar chart. And then you can also do line plot, right? So you just, instead of bar, you pass in the argument as kind, as line, right? So for this, we are plotting that type, right? And then you see something very, very weird here. Why is this line plot look like this, right? Usually it doesn't look like this. So this is because, remember, the x-axis is the row index that we pass in, right? And then y-axis is the value. So this is the Pokemon index, which it really doesn't make sense when you pass it in like this. So usually a line chart wouldn't look like this. So one way you can get around with this is you just set the row index. Remember, you can set the index, right, using this method, set index. So basically we change the index to name instead. And then we do the same thing. And then when we try to generate outright, if you look kind of better instead of these weird looking things, right? So now it tries to, yeah, basically it tries to generate a line plot. And then this Pokemon is the x-axis and this is the y-axis. So your axis is very important. You need to make sure that you are using the right index. And then you can also do some other modifications. For example, here, I rotate this x text here, or this label for x-axis, I rotate it to 90 degrees, right? If I don't do this, what will happen is that, okay, I think the default rotation is 0. So if you cluster together, so let's just fix that, yeah. And then another thing you will see is this PLT, right? So this PLT is actually the general consensus, the alias we use for when we're importing Matplotlib. So now you see that what I mean when they actually works hand in hand without this, right? Let's say, okay, this is setting the text, right, to 90 degrees, and this show is to display the graph on this Jupyter notebook, on this notebook, right? If I don't have this, right, I just try to plot. Oh, okay. In this case, it also occurs, right? But in some other cases, it will not occur. So it's best to just use this plot.show, right? So what I want to say is that you can set a lot of things using this PLT, right? Matplotlib. And then you can also plot a box plots. How you can actually do it is that, let's say, for the attack series, right? We want to plot a box plot. So you pass in the box argument and then you just show it. So this will tell us the mean is, or the median is 75. And then there's outliers over here, right? 4 outliers. And then this is negative. This is positively skewed data, right? Yep. So this box plot. And then next, I just want to show you how you can actually do some styling. So when you take a look at this, right? This is the minimum stuff that we get when we generate a plot, right? If let's say you want to add in, maybe you want to add in a X label, right, to explain to your participants, because let's say today you want to present it to other people. Based on this, they cannot really tell what is the message that we are trying to convey. So you can put in the X label, Y label, and also the title, right, and some other stuff, legend. How you can actually do it? By passing in the arguments. Let's say you want to set X label to metric, you want to set Y label to value, and then you want to give it a title, right? So you pass it in the plot method, right? So if you try to display it, now you get the title, the label, right? And so on. And also, yeah, so this is how you can customize the chart. So it looks better now, in the sense that you give more context. So for practice, let's try to generate this bar chart of type 2 Pokemon count, right? So tips for you, you can just call value count on type 2, and then you generate a line chart of Pokemon count for each generation, right? Generate a line chart, and lastly, do a box plot for Pokemon speed distribution. Complete with styling means that let's provide some context on maybe X label, bare minimum, give them the label for each axis and also the title, right? So I think now is 4:18. So yeah, I think we can have a 7 minute. Let's try to do a practice until 4:25.
Yeah, we can do that. So you said 7 minutes, right?
Yeah, 4:25. Come back.
Okay, let's do that. Okay. All right. I think we got some good pictures. And before we go, let me quickly put up my slides. Yep. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Wrong button, present. Okay. So yeah, I think last week we received a good amount of feedback, but really appreciate if you can take some time to just fill in the feedback so we can improve in our coming events. So here's a QR code on the screen, but maybe someone can also drop the link in the chat. So we really take time to read like each and every one of your feedback. So really appreciate you taking time. And speaking of coming events, next Saturday, same time, 2 p.m., we will have a talk in collaboration with leaders from Maxis on technology transformation and AI machine learning based targeting for the business. So hope to see you next Saturday, same time, to learn more from our leaders in the tech industry. And yep, if you would like to get connected with our organizing team today, here is where you can find them. We have Kian, Jad, myself, Jin, Waixin, Chin Xian. And if anyone, please feel free to drop your own LinkedIn in the chat as well, so we can all get connected and grow our community. And do also stay updated with Women Who Code KL. So here's where you can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, PTX, and also Meetup. So just search out Women Who Code KL and you should be able to find us. And from there, you would be able to see the updates and the upcoming events from the organization. And you can also join us on Slack at Women Who Code KL. Yep. I think that's all from me. So thank you so much again to everyone for joining us. If you would like to stay for a little chit chat, or if anyone has anything to say to everyone here on this call, please feel free to unmute yourself. If not, then everyone have a great weekend. I hope to see you in our event next week. Thanks everyone. I'm looking at the chat. Thanks for joining. Question from Annabelle: what is the event next week? Is the talk sharing by leaders from Nexus on tech transformation. Okay, I see some comments saying that breakout rooms are fun. Thank you, and thanks to the facilitators. Thanks for making it fun for our participants.